and just gets processed somewhere, and then I just view it here, so that they can do whatever the hell they want to it, like put ads in video games or whatever the hell else they want to do, right? Learn my history or listen to me interact with my Kinect or PS4 Kinect, whatever the hell they're going to call that. It doesn't do that. It's something I actually have tangibly on a hard drive that I'm storing somewhere. And that to me feels like it's not bringing that game home, but at the same time I know I've got it and it's tied to my account, and as long as my account doesn't get deleted or blown up or whatever the hell else, it should be okay to use. That to me is fine. So I think streaming is probably pretty immature at this point. I don't think that industry has been built up or is robust enough to probably make its way to consumer devices at this point. And I don't find myself any more likely to buy a PS4 because of the fact that it can stream games via Gaikai. Demos are a little bit of a different story. So one of the Gaikai claims to fame is that what you can do is, you can just demo the game. Just download, you don't have to download really anything. You just kind of start that process of a simplistic download, and then you kind of start playing the game while it's still continuing to download for your streaming process. That's cool. I could dig that. You know, the demo part of this whole thing I think is great. If I want to stream anything, it's just the demos. I don't want to gunk up my hard drive with demos, but at the end of the day that's not even that big of a deal. Again, storage is cheap, folks. Why can't they just throw giant hard drives in these things and call it a day? I don't understand that. So that's streaming. In terms of native backwards compatibility, I think you guys know exactly where I'm going to go with this. I agree with all of you, right? Because I don't think anybody out there this week, and I'm not sure I necessarily predicted this, but I'm not surprised either. Folks, you guys don't like the idea of lacking backwards compatibility or substituting backwards compatibility with something like streaming. And you know what? I agree with that completely. I think we're all gamers at heart here. That's probably why we agree so strongly on this. But if we're talking about native backwards compatibility, I'm in the same boat as you guys. I would really like to see it. I'd like to see that a lot. Now, if a PS4 plays every PS3 game, every PS2 game, and every PS1 game natively, that does a lot for me, man. I like that a lot. My Xbox 360 can play a lot of games that the original Xbox could. It doesn't play all of them, which I think is a shortcoming, but it plays most of them. It's really especially plays all the popular ones. If you put in a popular game, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be able to play it. Because the games that we all own and love are mostly the popular games anyway, so being able to play those on a 360, that's even a small consolation. Even that helps me understand. Even that helps me kind of get to where I need to be in order to make that happen. I like it, right? But I would really like to be able to kind of, you know what makes me brand loyal? Because these guys are trying to build that brand loyalty. What makes me brand loyal is honoring that commitment that I've made to your system. So the fact that I have a regular Xbox, the fact that I have a 360, if Durango plays all of those, whatever they're going to call this damn thing, if it's going to play all of the original Xbox and the 360 games as well natively, then what in the hell would I have? Why would I buy a PS4? There makes no sense. It makes no sense for me to do that. If I have a library of these games, rather than say, okay, yeah, I have a library of these games and I can play them on these old consoles that are collecting dust, or I can just pop it into my new console and put the old ones up in the closet in a nice, temperate area where they can stay in good condition and I can sell them for a lot of money someday. That's what I'd like to be able to do. Why isn't that happening? Can somebody answer that for me? Because I don't get it. That to me inspires brand loyalty. That to me shows a commitment to the fact that you help support these people and get them where they are. That to me also shows a dedication to a brand and not just to a system, which is what the companies all these video game producers seem to be now. We are only beholden to the PS4. That's our focus. We don't give a crap about the PS3 or the PS2 or the PS1. Talk to me about what you did for me today or last week. Don't talk to me about what we did 6 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. I don't like that idea. If you really want to kind of foster a true brand that you don't kill, you don't just kill it right out, then you want to pay homage to that brand and be able to go back and actually support some of the purchases that people have made with that brand before. Maybe I'm just rambling at this point, but I think that is very, very important. I would like to see those games come out. One other thing I'll talk about. Another reason why emulation kind of gets a bad rap is because most of the time when we're talking about emulation, we're talking about people that have to actually go back and get SDKs, right, development kits for a particular system. They kind of reverse engineer them, and then they use some of that code, which is technically not legal, you can't do that, to go and play, to emulate some of those old games. Completely understand why that should be illegal and why it should remain illegal. What I don't understand, although I think Gabe Newell makes an interesting argument for why that shouldn't be, but that's neither here nor there and another question for another time. But folks, the people that do have their SDKs, the only people in the world that don't need to license SDKs are the owners and the creators of those SDKs. So why in the hell could Sony not create a PS2 emulator for PS4 that worked perfectly, that worked flawlessly? To me, there seems to be no hurdles at that point. They were the ones that created the PS2. They were the ones that wrote all that code. They figured it out. So why can't I run that in your ecosystem? That, above all, makes no sense to me. I understand, folks, I understand completely about architectures. I get that the PS4 is going to be an x86 and the PS3 was a cell-based processor power PC. I understand that. But my point is, regardless of where, look at Good Old Games. Good Old Games plays a lot of games that had a lot of different platform restrictions, and they're gone now because someone took the time to go through and translate these games, and I realize that's x86, x86 by and large, almost exclusively as a matter of fact. But the point is, if I could actually, if someone had to go and emulating a piece of software to play natively, or I'm sorry, not to play natively, enabling a piece of hardware to play through emulation a piece of software, all right, is something that is only restrictive to the computational power and horsepower of a system, right? So you could make the argument that the PS4 couldn't emulate PS3 games with any kind of fidelity because of the lack of horsepower. That's a different story. I get that. I totally understand it. But folks, how could a PS4 not have the horsepower to be able to emulate PS1 games? I don't understand that. And if you as Sony invented the PS1 and you invented the PS4 and you're the one that holds on to those licenses, why in the smelly hell can you not play PS1 games on PS4? It's got an optical drive. Let's go. Anyway, I think we've rambled on about this enough, but it's a great conversation, guys. And I think that, let's talk about the answer to the question. I think none of us were really that impressed by the fact that any of this is going to be offered by the PS4, and I don't think any of us are any more likely to buy it as a result. Therefore, I think Sony's messaging is kind of flawed, and maybe their philosophy too. You could say that as well. I'm interested to see what happens. I'm going to be following it very closely, and of course, we'll be talking about that quite a bit here on theclanofthegreywolf.com. Because, you know, we like to talk about these kinds of things. All right, so I want to get to a question for next week that I think you guys are really going to like. This was suggested by the Beer Ninja, a well-respected part of our community, who suggested I ask this question after seeing a post on it on another website, kind of asking a similar question, and I thought this was really good. So, for all of us out there that really love video games, one of the reasons we really like them, I think, is because we get involved in them. They kind of bring us in. They're immersive. Part of the reason that they're immersive is because they create very beautiful, interesting, fun, fantastical, whatever, worlds, right? Now, I talked to you guys before about, you know, your favorite video game worlds, and I've asked that question before. That was a good one. I really did enjoy that after I had played the original Assassin's Creed. But what I want to ask you guys has to do with those video game worlds again, and it's similar, but it is different. And I want you to think back of some of your favorite video games you've ever played, or some of your favorite video game worlds that really brought you in and made you a part of the game and the culture. The question for the Weekly Ringer for next week goes like this: what video game world was the hardest to say goodbye to? Now, what do I mean by that? I mean that, so when you play a game and you go through, so for example, I beat Skyrim a while back now, and I recently just picked it back up and started playing again. But, you know, the kind of big overarching goals are gone now. So everything I'm doing are kind of ancillary, there's side quests. I'm really just kind of going around discovering new places, stuff like that. Which is awesome. Don't get me wrong, that's great. But not having that chief goal among everything else, now that you've beaten it, right? It's kind of time to move on to another game. The next game is kind of calling. I've given Skyrim its run. I really loved it. It was awesome. I had so much fun with it. Now I'm kind of like, what's next? What's on the docket? But there's something kind of aching there about leaving the Skyrim world because it's so much fun. It's, you know, hours and hours and hours of gameplay in it. So it's hard to leave it behind. I've created this whole, not only a world, but a world that I've created in part as well. It was created by Bethesda. I went in with my own characters and my own storyline, right? And helped to kind of create that world as well. And now that I want to move on to another game, it's kind of like, man, I don't want to leave Skyrim behind. Skyrim's great. It's fun. It's enjoyable. It's this whole world here, and it's kind of sad. You know, you start thinking about as if that place actually existed and I could actually go there, right? And so, in asking you what your favorite video game worlds are, what I want, or not worlds are, but what is the hardest game world to leave behind? I want you to think about what your favorite game worlds are, and talk about why. Which one is the hardest to leave behind and why? Why is it so hard to leave behind? What is it specifically about that world that really entices you so that you don't want to put it out to pasture? Folks, if you have a question you'd like me to ask here in the Weekly Ringer, you can get that to me in several different ways. One, you can send it to me in an email. Or if you have comments of the show, you can do this the same way too. Commodore 128 at clanofthegraywolf.com. You can definitely do that. Send me a private message through the website, which you can find here on clanofthegraywolf.com as well. Or I'd like for you all to follow me on Twitter at It's the Commodore, one word. That is me. So I do make a lot of pithy comments there, and it's well worth your time. Come follow me on Twitter. All right, cool. So great, folks. That is the Weekly Ringer for this week. I have had a good time talking about some of this backwards compatibility stuff. This is very exciting. Okay, we're at a very exciting year for video gaming for a lot of reasons. Chiefly among them the fact that these major console manufacturers are giving a last-ditch effort to show that they are still relevant in a console world, in a world that seems like it's saying console-less is the way to go. So we're in for a wild, wild ride. I hope you all enjoy it as much as we do. Thank you all for watching the Weekly Ringer. I am the Commodore from the Clan of the Grey Wolf, and there is no reset button.